Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 321st Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see this is not fought on a flat featureless map. This is fought on one of my favoured maps, which is the Pripyat Marshes map. Now I like this map because it's pretty well flat. There's a few slopes, but it's pretty well flat. But if you want to fight in the big open plains, you can go out and fight in the big open plains if you want. But also, alternatively, if you want to fight in the woods, like if you want to bring barbarian troops for the woods bonus, or if you want to spring ambushes, then this map is kind of it's got the best of both worlds, I think, really. And it should be an interesting one to watch here. Just to say, this battle is an experimental battle on behalf of our team, and I'll explain a little bit more to you about that as we after we've introduced our team here. But it is an experiment, so as with all experiments, sometimes it works out well, sometimes it doesn't, so we just have to see what happens. Okay, our first teammate is Brotherhood member Uther, who has bought the Rome Julii faction, and if you notice, he has bought the old school cavalry general. And if we look at the upgrades on his cavalry general, you'll see that that cavalry general is fully upgraded. That's 3 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. Up to about 8 years ago, bringing a cavalry armoured general was the normal thing to do for Roman generals. But as I say, about 8 years ago, we mostly changed to infantry generals. So as I say, it's nice to see a bit of old school here by Uther. And Uther can handle his cavalry general very well for harassing and haranguing purposes. And as I say, it's a bit of old school there. And with that fully upgraded general, it will be very difficult to kill for the enemy there. Okay, our next teammate is a newer member of the Brotherhood called Lightsaber. Now, Lightsaber, as I say, is a newer member of the Brotherhood, but is a very good RTW player. And as you can see here, he has bought the Macedon faction. And he also has got a cavalry general. Once again, unusual these days to bring cavalry generals. And let's have a look at the upgrades, and his cavalry general is fully upgraded. Okay, it's a companion cavalry unit, but it is a cavalry general there. And as you can see, a lot of his army will be hiding. Let's have a look at the upgrades of his pike units there. So he's got gold shield, gold attack on his pike units there. But as you can see, most of his army is in hiding at the moment in the woods. So it'll be interesting to see how well he does with the Macedon faction. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has unusually bought the Germania faction. This is part of the experiment. I'll explain to you in a minute there. Let's have a look at the Germania army. As you can see there, he's got the effective against armor chosen axemen. Now remember, these guys used properly can cut wide swathes through heavily armored troops like urban cohorts, and those axes, as I say, are effective against armor. And as I say, used in coordination with other units, they can be extremely effective. Then we move on to the infamous berserkers here. Now we see he's got 6 upgrades on his berserkers, I think. Yeah, so that's gold shield, gold attack. Now these berserkers have got effective against armor maces, 2 hit points, and excellent specifications. And they are based on real historic characters. The real historic characters used to literally go berserk in battle. They usually have a cocktail of drugs, they were drunk, or they had real mental health problems. And both friend and foe alike feared these men, both on the battlefield and off the battlefield. They had an aura about them. There are tales of these men running around after a battle covered in blood and gore, screaming like banshees. So that was what the real berserkers was like. And as you can see here, he's got Legion's got 6 chosen archers. Now these guys got good range and do a lot of damage. But as you know, barbarian factions are very susceptible to missile damage. That's why he's got so many archers there. And now he's got his Gothic cavalry. If you notice there, he's got 8 upgrades on his Gothic cavalry. That is 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. If you look at the specifications of this cavalry, it's very underrated, this cavalry is, but it is extremely strong. So that's a pretty good Germania army there. And then you can see that I've bought my old Britannia army here of chosen swordsmen. You know, a modern Britannia army probably got about 14 head hurlers and 6 fully upgraded chariots. Well, that's a modern Britannia army. This army is about 8 to 9 years old and is a more balanced army. I think I've got something like 9 chosen swordsmen. If you put good upgrades on those chosen swordsmen, then they're pretty good. And I think I've got something like let's have a look at the chosen swordsman. Yeah, as you can see, you've got good upgrades. These are the elite of the barbarian infantry. They say if you put good upgrades on them, they can be very effective on the 31k battlefield. And then I've got the head hurlers. Now remember, the head hurlers, those heads are effective against armor, and they also bring a fear factor which lowers the morale of enemy troops. The real head hurlers used to dip their heads in lime, so that even if the heads just touch the skin of the enemy, it would cause terrible burns. As I say, these heads are effective against armor and can be extremely effective and morale sapping of enemy troops. And as I say, I've got just 5 of those. And say, so I've got 9 infantry, 5, I think it's 5 of those, and now also I've got the chariots here. Now for me, the Britannia chariots are pound for pound the best chariots in the game. They don't run amok, and they've got really good specifications, good attack specifications, and are really effective. Okay, the experiment I was talking to you about is, if you notice that both Legion and myself have bought barbarian factions here. This is unusual to have 2 barbarian factions on one team. So what we thought we would do is try and combine our effectiveness of the barbarians with their morale lowering units and things like that, and work hand in hand and in coordination with our allies here, just to see how effective they could be against good enemy troops. So this is, as I say, just an experiment that we're trying here with 2 barbarian factions in our team. It should be an interesting one to watch, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. And here is the enemy team. We have IOW Srax, who has bought the Rome Scipio faction. Now, I'd just like to draw your attention to his general here as Legionary 1st Cohort unit. Yes, there's 120 men in that unit, but their specifications are not very good in comparison to urban cohorts. So to bring your general as an Eagle unit, to me, is always a bit of a risk, because you'd have to really make sure you keep him out of the battle as long as you can, because if he gets hit, then he will fold a lot quicker than an urban cohort. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Their next teammate is Brotherhood member Icarus, a newer member of the Brotherhood, but a very good RTW player. And as you can see, he's bought the Carthage faction. Now, I think he's bought that Carthage faction because he knows that spears will kill barbarian troops, berserkers and chariots as well very, very quickly. So we will have to be very careful during the course of the battle to avoid these Carthage Sacred Band spears. Their next teammate is COH Arietti, who has bought the Rome SBQR faction, and if you look there, you'll see that he's bought the bog standard 14 infantry and 6 cavalry. But I would also like to draw your attention to, he has made his general an Eagle unit as well. Now, as I say, if you look at the specifications of the Eagle units in comparison to the urban cohorts, as I say, I always think it's a bit of a risk, especially towards the end of the battle, when those Eagle units are just not up to as good as the urbans. And of course, as we know, if you lose your general, then the whole of your army loses its morale. Okay, their next teammate is RTW player Chuck Monk. Now, a lot of you know Chuck Monk, very good 31k player. But if you notice, he's bought a very little used faction on the 31k battlefield, Scythia. Now, new players to Rome Total, why do you think he's bought this faction? Can you see he's got, I think it's 14 chosen archers here. 14 chosen archers. Now, why do you think he's bought that many archers? Let's look at the upgrades. If you notice, they got 6 upgrades. That's gold shield, gold attack on those archers. This one actually has got 7 upgrades on, so that's got an experienced stroke as well. Now, remember, these chosen archers have got really long range, do loads of damage, and they're so tough they can be used as light infantry after they've used all their arrows up. So he's got 14 of those, and also he's got 6 units of the headhunting maidens. Now, these headhunting maidens have got effective against armor axes, and personally, cavalry versus cavalry, I think these are possibly the best cavalry in the game. Those effective against armor axes really do make a difference. So as I say, cavalry versus cavalry, I reckon they're probably the best in the game there. You see, he's got 6 units of them. Now, newer players for Rome Total War. So why do you think he's bought this custom specialized army that he has built for this battle? Why do you think he's bought that? 14 archers and 6 cavalry. Scythia as well. Why do you think someone would bring that? Okay, it's a tactical move is why he's bought that, because we know that Germania, Britannia and Macedon can be absolutely decimated by missile fire. Okay, as you know, barbarian troops are extremely susceptible to archer fire. So with 14 chosen archers, all with really good upgrades on, they could literally, as I say, decimate our armies before we even get into combat. So we are going to have to play this game extremely tactically and be very crafty on how we use our troops here. Because, make no mistake, this army was built specifically to cause as many casualties as it could to our troops before we get into combat. So, as I say, we'll have to be very tactical. This should be an interesting battle for you to watch, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, in this very, very early stage of the battle here, you can see that Uther's being very aggressive and moving forward. Now, this map slopes slightly down. The highest point up is where Uther is moving his army, and then it slopes down towards the rest of our troops there. So Uther's moving forward here, hoping to try and get a little bit of a slope advantage there on this in these woods there. And if you notice that the Scipio player there is falling back there, he's moving back in response to Uther's army moving forward there. Now remember, Uther's cavalry have got 8 upgrades on. That's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack, and he would love that Scipio cavalry to attack his cavalry, because my guess is that Scipio cavalry probably is probably just gold, and that's why Uther would like them to attack him here. Now if you notice, let's just say Uther always brings, here you go, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, he always brings 8 upgrades on his cavalry, as I say, so that's 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack, and he would really love that Scipio cavalry to attack his cavalry, even though I think Uther's only got 5 units, 3, 4, 5, yeah, and they've got 6. He's also got his general there to give that cavalry morale bonus, and if you notice that wisely the Scipio general is moving his cavalry back. He doesn't want any truck with Uther's well upgraded cavalry there. So that's a wise move by the Scipio general. And Uther's done what he's wanted to. Now he's on top that slight slope there. As I say, it's not really an advantage, but we've just got up onto the top of a slight slope there. And if you notice, the enemy now are manoeuvring together over there on the other flank. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. Right, if you notice, I'm running from right the other flank, on the other side of the flank there, and my troops will be tired already, and I haven't even got over there. Can you see how my troops are winded already from all the way over there, and they've only just come into the woods, so by the time they get over to this part of the battlefield, my troops will be very tired, and probably would be best not to fight straight away. They will need a rest. If you fight troops when they're tired, very tired or exhausted, they've got a good chance of routing because of their exhaustion there. But as I say, Uther made a good move there in running forward. The enemy moved back, and we've now got a slight advantage on that the slope there. As otherwise, we would have been facing the enemy coming down from the to the top to the bottom there. As you can see there, the enemy are now manoeuvring. You've got all those archers moving forward there, the Scythian archers moving forward. As I say, they would love to decimate our barbarian troops. And as I say, this is a very, very early stage of the battle. At this stage of the battle, I just thought I'd show you what the Carthaginian general's doing here. Can you see he split his army into 2 and have put spears in his 2 allies' Roman armies there. Now, the reason he's done that, of course, is because we've got so many barbarians here, 2 barbarian factions, that he knows that those spears will kill berserkers, chariots, and all barbarian troops really quickly. And with those Scythian archers as well to decimate our troops, as I say, this is going to be extremely difficult for our team here. As you can see here, we're got a lot of our troops hiding in the woods. You can see I'm bringing my now. See, my troops are tired already. By the time I get over to where my other allies are, I'm going to need, as I said, a rest there to get them to fresh or at least warmed up before we actually get into combat. Okay, at this stage of the battle, you can see that Lightsaber has moved his chosen archers forward here. Sorry, his Cretan archers forward to take on the enemy chosen archers. Now he's only got a few, I think he's got maybe 5 or 6 archer units there. Remember, the Scythian chosen archers, there was 14 of them, so he's going to be severely outnumbered. If you notice here, you've also got the headhunting maidens, and you've got Esrax's Scipio cavalry on this flank as well. So as you can see there, Lightsaber's moved, as I say, moved his Cretan archers forward to actually engage the enemy chosen archers. And the reason that I think Lightsaber's doing that is to try and get as many of those archers to shoot at his archers rather than shoot at our barbarian troops, because he knows how much damage those archers could do. Right, if you notice, the enemy, 2 Roman enemy armies are moving forward here with the Carthaginian spearmen just behind them. So make no mistake, the enemy knows exactly what they're doing here with those Carthaginian spearmen just behind. They know that if we attack with barbarians, they'll run those Carthaginians forward, put their spears down, and cause a lot of casualties to our troops. You already can see Uther moving his general around there. He would love to be able to hit some of those enemy cavalry. Let's just pause the game for a second. He would love to hit some of that enemy cavalry, but he also knows that those headhunting maidens are fast troops as well, and he doesn't want to get involved with those headhunting maidens, because he knows they are effective against armour. As I say, you got Esrax's cavalry over there as well. You got the Carthaginian cavalry, say the Scythian cavalry, and all those archers. So there's a lot of cavalry and archers on this flank facing our Macedon ally. And I think that was Lightsaber's thoughts there. I think he's trying to do a distraction tactic here, trying to draw as many of the enemy troops over to this flank as he can, allowing us to, you know, because that would weaken the enemy a little bit, not having all those archers and cavalry over there, and trying to help us out here. It's a nice team move by him with that distraction tactic. But as I say, you can see the Carthaginian general wisely has split his army into 2 so he can help either of his Roman allies out if we attack. You see my troops are winded, so I still don't really want to get them into battle yet. Really warmed up would be the best thing, I think. I've got my chariots out to the right flank, if you notice, over there as well. I'm going to keep them out to the right flank, ready to bring them in when necessary. But bearing in mind, as I say, you've got the Carthaginian spearmen there integrated with their Roman allies. That could be a real problem. Right, can you see Lightsaber running his pikes forward here? You can see that the headhunting maidens have been put into open order, and that's to avoid as many casualties as they can from archers there in open order, like we do with the pilot shield units. Put them in open order. If you've got them in open order, it makes for less casualties from missiles. Right, you can see Uther charging his general forward here into the rear of those retreating maidens. But as I say, Lightsaber here is doing a distraction tactic here, trying to draw as many of the enemy over to this flank as he can, especially the archers, allowing our 2 barbarian armies and Uther's Rome army to try and do what we can over on the other flank. So it's a nice bit of teamwork there by Lightsaber. He knows that in front of him there's no heavy infantry, just those archers and cavalry. So it wouldn't surprise me if he started to advance further as the battle progresses. But as you can see, let's just pause the game for a second there. As I say, he knows there's no heavy infantry in front of him, so he could move forward. A lot of his archers have been killed now, but he's still using what archers he's got left. If you notice here, Legion 22 has got his 6 chosen archers forward as well, shooting at the enemy, trying to cause as many casualties as he can. We know that the enemy are hiding in the woods there, both the enemy Roman army and the Carthaginian army there. So as I say, we're going to have to be very tactical how we attack, knowing that those Sacred Band spearmen will absolutely kill our barbarian troops really quickly if we attack in maybe an inappropriate way there. As you can see here, the bulk of the Scythian chosen archers are on this flank. You've got cavalry, enemy cavalry over on this flank as well. As I say, Lightsaber, I believe, is doing, as I say, that distraction tactic there, trying to draw as many of the enemy troops over there as he can to allow his teammates to do what we can to the enemy. Now remember, in this situation, our team needs Uther to be the hard edge of our attack. He needs to take the enemy pilers, and he needs to make first contact with the enemy. Uther knows this, as he's fought with both Britannia and Germania before. He knows the strengths and weaknesses of both factions. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see, as I say, Uther's going to move forward to the enemy. He knows he will have to take the pilers, and he knows, as I say, he's going to have to make first contact with the enemy, as he is the hard edge of our attack. But once he does that, if both Legion and myself then can use our barbarian troops to the best way that we can. As you can see here, we're moving our troops up there to support Uther. We've got hidden troops in the woods already there. But bearing in mind, make no mistake here, we're up against all good players on the other team. two good Roman armies and the Carthaginian spearmen at this part of the battlefield as well. So as I say, it's an experiment. This battle is bringing two barbarian factions in the same army. We just have to see what happens. Right, can you see Lightsaber? As I say here, he's doing that distraction tactic here, really being a good teammate, trying to draw as many of the enemy as he can. He knows he's got no, as I said before, he's got no heavy infantry in front of him, and he knows that obviously his pikes have got anti-cavalry bonus, and he knows the enemy will know that as well. So he's now pushing forward, trying to disrupt the enemy battle line here. As I say, this is a great distraction tactic by Lightsaber, moving his pikemen forward. Now make no mistake, he's going to be losing a lot of his pikemen to those chosen archers. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, he's moving forward here, pushing into the enemy flank. As I say, he knows, as I said, he's going to be losing a lot of his pikemen to chosen archer fire here. But also, as I say, he's being a good distraction for our team there. Let's say Uther's ready here to attack, press into the enemy. But you can see the Carthaginian spears there ready to move forward to receive a barbarian attack. I've got my chariots out to the right flank here. The enemy have spotted that. That's why they've got those Carthaginian spears over there on that flank as well. Remember, those Carthaginian spears, as I said earlier, will kill berserkers and chariots very easily. So we're going to have to be very careful how we attack. If you notice, I'm bringing my Britannia troops up forward here. And I believe Legion is got his infantry close by as well. You can see what Uther's doing with his general here. Can you see that the enemy are throwing pilers at that general unit? But the general unit moves so fast that all those pilers have just been wasted. See how he's come out again, hoping for them to throw pilers again here. Nice use of that fast moving cavalry general unit there. Meanwhile, back over here on our left flank, you can see that our Macedon ally is charging his companion cavalry into the enemy Scipii cavalry, and unfortunately he's just lost his general. You can see the headhunting maidens with their effective against armor axes coming in as well, and bang as that cavalry charges in. If you notice here, our Macedon ally is starting to up pikes and run his pikes into the melee here, but make no mistake here, he could lose his cavalry here. As I say, he is doing this as a distraction tactic here, trying to draw as many enemy troops over to this flank as he can. But if you notice there now, the Macedon cavalry have just all been routed. Okay, so just pause the game for a second. So he's still got his pikemen there, but all his cavalry has just been routed there. But he's doing what he wants to do. He's drawn over a lot of enemy cavalry. He's drawn over the bulk of the Scythian archers as well. They're shooting down at his troops. So that distraction tactic, from our point of view, is working quite well. Also, Carthage cavalry was down there as well, but the Carthage cavalry is moving back over to the fray here. Right, I've got my Britannia troops ready here. And it wouldn't surprise me if Uther started to make contact with the enemy pretty soon. Remember, he is the hard edge of our attack. He knows the strengths and weaknesses of Germania and Britannia, and he knows what the best thing is to do with his Roman army here. Right, new players to Rome. So, can you see this Testudo, this unit in Testudo moving forward, having loads of pilers thrown at it? Look, but they've lost no men. That's how effective the Testudo unit can be. You might have lost about 3 men now, maybe, but that's how effective Testudo units can be when moving forward or for defence. That all-round defence there is really good. Right, can you see Legion is starting the attack with his Germania troops. He's got his Knight Raiders. Remember, the Knight Raiders lower the morale of enemy troops. They bring a fear factor. If you notice that Uther's got his cavalry, I've got my infantry there as well. I remember when Legion attacked, I was unaware that he was attacking. He didn't shout we're attacking, so I might be a bit slow in the attack here. But that's what he's doing there. So Uther's made the initial contact. Moving back over to our left flank here, you can see that, as I say, Lightsaber has done really well over on that left flank with that distraction tactic, getting a lot of enemy cavalry and the bulk of the archers over there shooting at his troops. So he's done extremely well there and pulling away a lot of important enemy units to that left flank. So meanwhile, over to our right flank here, you can see Uther's moving forward. We've got our Germanian ally now is attacking. As you can see, Uther's charging his cavalry forward. And remember that Uther's cavalry there is 8 upgrades, 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. I've just seen the 3 berserkers have been activated. And so the Germania and Uther's army are both now attacking the enemy in front of them. But if you notice here, we're also being tactical with our cavalry and moving our cavalry out to the right flank here. Can you notice that the Carthaginian general is now moving his spears forward to absorb our barbarian attack there, knowing that his troops will kill our barbarians really quick. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So as I said here, you can see that Uther and our Germania ally are moving forward there to attack the enemy troops in front. As I say, I think I saw all 3 berserkers have now been activated, so that's going to intimidate nearby troops, lowering their morale, making them more susceptible to routing. As I say, this is an experiment here. There you go. There's one of the berserker units there charging forward. That will be intimidating, as I say, and nearby enemy troops, lowering their morale. But over here, can you see over on the right flank, both Legion and myself are taking our infantry round the flank here in an attempt to do a flanking attack there on the enemy. I've got my chariots out on that right flank as well. So not only are we hitting them head on, we're trying to do a bit of tactical movement around their flank as well here. Now remember, this is just an experiment there, bringing 2 barbarian factions to this battle, so we'll see how well it does. As I say, we'll have to play extremely tactically here to do any good against such good players with such good, solid 31k armies here. As you can see, there's 2 more of Legion's berserkers there, charging forward. There's Uther charging his infantry forward as well, and his cavalry. But as I said, here you can see that we're I'm moving my chosen swordsman forward. Now remember, if you push the attack button on them, that enhances their attack specifications. So just before I go on, I always press that button to get the most from their attack specifications. There you can see Uther charging in too. Right, can you see I've brought my chariots in? And remember, those chariots have got a fear factor as well as really good attack specifications. Right, let's just pause the game. So, as you can see here on the right flank, you can see Legion has got his cavalry in behind the enemy team there. Nice tactical move there. As you can see, I'm doing a hammer and anvil attack here with my chariots and chosen swordsman here, attacking the enemy right flank. Now, if you notice, the troops there will be, they're afraid, they're frightened by chariots, so their morale will be dropping like a stone. Can you see that? Frightened by chariots there. Alright, so that means that obviously with that fear factor, their morale is greatly reduced. Now can you see that some of the enemy troops there, if you notice, frightened by chariot, all the way over there. Now see, intimidated by nearby enemy. Now those troops are intimidated by the berserkers and the Germania night raiders. Okay, so that also lowers their morale. So we're between us, we're really lowering the morale of the enemy troops with our chariots and units. Right, can you see that the enemy are bringing their cavalry back over from that distraction tactic on that left flank? And if you notice that Lightsaber's bringing his pikemen back over to the fray on this right flank as well, after successfully carrying out that distraction tactic there. So as I say here, you can see our chariots and let's say the chariots and night raiders and berserkers are all lowering the morale of the enemy troops, plus my head hurlers. They're throwing in their effective against armors. Look at that, a Carthaginian unit there of 70 odd men routing. That's just through the fear factor there. 72 Carthaginians in one unit just routing, and that's what the fear factor can do here. A combination of British chariots, British head hurlers, Germania berserkers and Germania night raiders there, all lowering the morale of the troops. Right, can you see now we've started a mass rout of the enemy here on this flank. Like I say before in other battle videos, once you start getting enemy troops routing with all the fear factor that both these barbarian factions have bought, it can be like an infection and it can really cause a massive chain right there. Right, can you see that Carthaginian cavalry there? Can you see now I'm charging my chariots in? Now you watch all that Carthaginian cavalry there, look, they've all routed just through the fear factor. Yes, they were a little bit battle damaged, but just those chariots charging into them, the fear factor has caused that there. Right, can you see here, Uther, as I say, was the hard edge of our attack here. He is now facing the other SBQR, Roman SBQR army and the Carthaginians here. So as I say, if ever you want to bring barbarian faction, you must have good allies that understand the strengths and weaknesses of your barbarian faction. Right. Let's just pause the game for a second here. So as I say, Uther knew exactly what he was doing. He knew he had to be the hard edge of the attack to allow both Legion and myself to use our barbarian faction in the best way we could there. So that was a really good tactical move there by our team, I thought, on that flank. As you can see, the headhunting maidens are about to charge into Uther's lines, but as I say, the maidens are really good against other cavalry, but against heavy infantry they're not they don't seem to be that effective. You notice that Lightsaber's bringing his Macedon pikemen back to the fray. It looks like he could actually get into the rear of the enemy. Notice that the Germania Night Raiders are returning. Remember, the Night Raiders give a fear factor as well, lowering the morale of enemy troops. I think this battle has been not just about tactical moves, but also the amount of units that we've bought that lower the morale of enemy troops and making them incredibly susceptible to routing. If you notice, I got my chariots here chasing down routing units here. I don't want any of the enemy units to rally and come in back behind us. So with the fear factor those chariots bring as well, they will keep the routing troops routed. You can see here Uther now is up against SBQR troops. Right, can you see those head-hunted maidens charging? And bang, as those maidens charge in. Whoa, really penetrated deep into Uther's lines there with those maidens. And if you notice, Uther has done a counter-attack there with his battle-damaged cavalry. But as you can see, there's a lot of SBQR troops there and a lot of Carthaginian troops there as well. As you can see, Lightsabers brought his pike units up, his battle-damaged pike units up into the rear of the enemy troops there. And as I say, my troops, the Britannia troops and the Germania troops there are both attacking the enemy troops here as well. Now remember, don't underestimate those head hurlers. Those effective against armour heads that bring fear as well can really lower the morale of enemy troops, as I say, making them even more susceptible to routing. Right, if you notice there, you might be able to see the little black dots of the heads going into the enemy troops. I remember I was targeting the Carthaginian general with my head hurlers there. And hopefully the amount of heads that's hitting him, plus the attack by our troops there, is going to rout that Carthaginian general pretty soon, I would have thought. There, Carthaginian general has just been routed. 41-man unit there. Look. That's the fear factor of the heads hitting them. The Night Raiders there as well. And we're starting to... So those Carthaginian troops there are routed. I'm still throwing in lots of heads. If you notice, the black dots are those effective against armour heads still being thrown in onto the enemy team there. Plus Lightsaber getting up behind with his Macedon pikemen. And of course Uther's red Julii troops there. Those headhunting maidens there just being attacked by some of Uther's infantry. And I think that's the Scythian general's just been taken out there. So I think the experiment here with good tactical play and teammates understanding the strengths and weaknesses of barbarian factions there seem to have paid off. Don't forget, also in this map we were fighting in the woods as well, which gives the barbarians a woods bonus. Okay, there, so you can see, let's say the Britannia and Germania troops and the Julii troops all working together hand in hand. Coordination, cooperation, it's all about that, I think, if you're going to try bringing two barbarian factions to the modern day battlefield. As you can see there, a nice, as I say, Lightsaber really did well with that distraction tactic on the left flank there, drawing away a lot of enemy troops, and especially those chosen archers that could have really decimated our barbarian troops there. So as I say now, it looks like our team has managed to go on and win this battle there. But as I say, I think the Night Raiders, the Berserkers, the Chariots, the effective against armour heads, that amount of morale sapping units there, I think really made a difference to the enemy team there. You see, I've got a group of head hurlers there. They've run out of heads now, and they're just light infantry now. They've drawn their swords out. As you can see, they're up against good Scipii urban cohort units there, charging in on them, and there's a cavalry unit as well. As I say, the head hurlers are light infantry when they've run out of heads to throw there. But I just wondered, all of you watching this, do you think that bringing two barbarian factions to the modern day battlefield with good coordination and cooperation with your allies is a good idea? I think this was an interesting experience there.
This is a great victory. The cries of
you see that unit there just ran as soon as those Night Raiders came into their kind of sphere there. Because they were battle damaged, their morale was so low, they just routed. Okay, first thing I'd like to say is really well done to everybody in the game there. As I say, this was an experimental battle for us, just to try and see what bringing two barbarian factions with our allies would do on the modern day battlefield. I'd just like to draw your attention. Remember we first looked at Scythia and thought, well, that's a strange army. 14 archers and 6 cavalry. But look at the kills, highest kills in the game. So Scythia got the highest kills in the game with that army. Okay, they were mostly shooting up the big 120-man Macedon infantry units there, but really well done to Scythia there. That was some really good kills. But if you notice the rest of the enemy kills, can you see they're well under 1,000? So that goes to show how effective our tactics and armies were to be able to keep good players' kills under that. Well done to Legion and Uther. Notice Legion with his Germania army got the second highest kills in the game. So really well done to him. Lightsaber there didn't get that many kills, but that distraction tactic of kind of sacrificing a lot of his units there to draw the enemy away certainly really helped with the outcome of the battle there. So really well done to Lightsaber with that distraction tactic. And Uther as well done to Uther. He knew the strengths and weaknesses. My Britannia army, not brilliant kills, but I think the combination of us all working together really helped in the victory there. As I say, Uther was the hard edge of our attack there. Really well done to him. But I'd like to say really well done to IOWX Rax, well done to Brotherhood member Icarus, well done to Ariate, and well done to Chuck Monk. Really well played, guys. But also nice teamwork, Legion 22, Lightsaber and Uther. I thought that was an interesting battle there to see how well we could do against really good players. As I say, and really well done to Chuck Monk there with his the best kills that he's got. So there you go. If you work in coordination and combination with your allies there, and especially allies that understand the weaknesses and strengths of barbarian factions there, that's what you can do on the modern day battlefield. So I think that experiment worked out well for us. It might have gone the other way, but I thought our tactics and strategy paid well there. Okay, Spartan Commanders, and hope you enjoyed the battle, and bye for now.